still in the removal of government subsidies. And of course, the governments, in most cases, they claim they're trying to avert these funds to economic growth and development, through establishment of sustainable infrastructure and so many more. But it's quite a known connecting app, most especially when it comes to Africa. All right, now still looking into that, new alliances are being built across the continent and across the globe, 2025. Because we see the major fear actually when we come to 2025 has been largely for any global trade. What is likely to disrupt the global trade is the tariffs that Donald Trump intends to impose on the imports that are heading into the United States of America. Of course, some of the analysts saying that he's doing this so that he can force people into alliances, which are in favor of China and so many more. Now, still on that, Senegal's foreign minister on sovereignty alliances and change. Of course, Yassine Fall discussed Senegal's vision, that is for economic independence and diplomacy. Now, as we speak, Senegal, long considered to be one of Africa's most stable nations, is actually entering into a transformative era under President, that is Bissau Diomaye Faye. And now his ambitious 25-year development plan prioritizes economic sovereignty, sustainable resource management, and local expertise. Now, at the forefront is Yassine Fall, that is Senegal's foreign minister, an experienced economist and diplomat with a distinguished United Nations background. Now, the fall faces the critical task force of redefining Senegal's global alliances, that is including the closure of French military bases. Let's talk about while maintaining key relationships. Now, in his interview, of course, she discusses the challenges and also opportunities for implementing the president's vision. That is from reshaping diplomacy to fostering a national self-determination. Yeah, now, of course, countries are considering the fact that they need new alliances, if this is to work out quite a very effective. And what we've actually noticed is that there has been establishment, the rise of what we call the connector states, and these are states which link countries to continents, one continent to another, like how Turkey links Asia to Europe. And now these nations are actually going to have huge benefits, according to what I'm saying, because they are, first of all, reducing on the tensions between these powers that are actually having economic and trade wars. But of course, at the end of the day, it will turn to be the favor. Just like how Ukraine, Europe, to access Russian oil and gas had to pass through Ukraine to Europe. And Ukraine is benefiting in terms of transit fees, which was earning it about $1 billion United States dollars. And of course, Russia estimated to have lost $5 billion annually, but that could be in tax revenues, because Russia has a policy that when the oil is mined from the ground, there is a tax that is levied on that oil, and then the export, about 30% of the price of the oil is actually levied that goes back to the government. So the experts still believe that Russia won't actually lose out that much big as compared to the size of the economy. So we are discussing all this simply because we understand how, for the first time, that was 2022, that this war literally, we felt the impact here in Uganda too. We're not far from conflict. That's why it's important to have information regarding the events that are happening on a global scale. But of course, the question is, where is Africa positioned? How is Africa positioning itself? Taking a look at the whole tension that is happening. Of course, despite a few war zone areas like Somalia, Sudan, and Nigeria, the Boko Haram, Africa has relatively tried to maintain a stable peace, at least in some of the countries. And according to the Economist magazine that was published, it is revealed that by 2030, the Africans would actually be on a high demand on the global market. But the question is, Once they get there, will they get those skills and return, import them back to Africa for its development, or they will decide to actually keep in those countries and earn the money and spend it back, So this is the time to really leverage on. And one of the key aspects is technology, artificial intelligence, which is also one of the key. If we're talking about the emerging economies, that is something that also needs to be looked into, and it will be very vital for the growth and development of the continent of Africa. Despite the fact that recently there has been a struggle, most especially when it comes to the funding, because we have quite a lot of startups in Africa, and the incomes flowing in have actually been quite very limited. But of course, there is a political attachment to that, if we had to bring it that way, as so many foreign powers, Africa becomes like the battleground for the new Cold War. And this connects us back to the Lobido project that is being established to link from Congo to Angola, to the port of Angola. That is Lobido Port in Angola. And this railway will actually transport the minerals from Democratic Republic of Congo back to Angola. So you can still see the Cold War. We are still into the middle of that. And I think it's better we don't really be a part of any alliance to avoid direct conflict that we're not in position to actually solve. And that's what makes the non-alignment movements quite very productive and very important for the nation of Africa. But otherwise, the future is actually proving to be very bright for the continent. And we anticipate that countries like Uganda will actually benefit huge from this growing African spirit as a result of that. And of course, some come out to come and give the predictions, based on the current events. Like I told you, the experts have already believed that we shall not have increment when it comes to the global prices of oil, despite all that is happening in Gaza, Israel and Gaza, only if Iran gets into war with Israel. That would definitely bring us to the fuel prices getting so high. The palm prices will definitely be shooting up high. Countries like Tanzania kickstarted off 2025 with low palm prices. So the motorists in Tanzania right now, those that are doing the transportation business, it's actually benefiting them a huge deal because, well, the government, of course, one of the ways, and actually one of the ways to avert this is through the establishment having stable forex reserves, and I think Uganda should also really embark on that, having enough reserves and also formulating policies, talking about the macro economic policies will also be a very vital for that. So this is what I feel like Africa should take. Countries like Uganda, let's talk about the multiplier effect that we're having a challenge despite the decrease in the interest rate by the central bank. It is still hard to make money. Why? It's because there are factors that perhaps limit the multiplier effect of money. For example, let me talk about the base money that is printed by the central bank. By the time it's lent out to the individuals, the multiplier effect is really limited. Recently, Ethiopia did the same. It allowed the banks to increase the credit available to borrow, the allowable credit growth to about 18%. It increased from 14% to 18%, and the central bank cut the interest rates to as low as, actually the interest rates remain the same, and they increased the available credit growth. And ideally, most of the people were saying but isn't that going to increase the final prices of goods and services? Well, the idea is that this money is invested into profitable ventures to multiply further and then the profit will be realized. That is in the very long run. So this is a leaf for the African countries to really pick amidst the global tensions. I think countries should actually think more of reforms in domestic policies. Let's talk about taxation, the tariffs. The goods that are the foreign goods should be taxed heavily to protect the domestic consumers. But of course, this comes with a price because we don't determine the prices on the global scale. They are determined for us on our behalf. So there is a lot that we have to do in line of economic liberation. And I think as the world is at war right now, Africa, it's actually time for Africa to reposition itself, through more peace, more harmony, by creating, a defense force to avert any conflict. For example, in Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Boko Haram, in Nigeria. So with that, we shall have a stable growing economy and on the African continent. Well, that is it for now. Let's go for the short break, and definitely we shall be returning with further business related updates. Stick around.